So Diablo 4's launch is a little under 2 weeks away for those of you that have early access, which I do, of course. And I want to give you my top 5 tips from me maxing both the betas that will help you on launch. Starting off with the first one, and it has to do with campaign. Now, I think most people know that campaign is going to be the primary objective for a lot of people if you're wishing to progress quickly. However, if you look during the beta, when you completed the tutorial, you got access to 3 separate quests: Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. And what you'll notice is, unfortunately, I don't have a screenshot of the base level, but I have a couple screenshots out there of the kind of more endgame quest log in the beta, which was level 25, and you can see the quests scale to your level, to that level 25, but they also can start at a lower level. And what this means is that you can actually do the campaign quests relatively early and kind of, I guess you could say, get ahead of the game rather than having to level up, maybe go around and do dungeons or getting the renown to get your level up. Assuming your build is solid enough, you can just rush through the campaign. Again, we've seen this in the Fractured Peaks in the beta when we were interacting with Core Dragon, and those monsters were tending to be level 25. You can interact with those at level 10. And Act 2 and Act 3 seem to be available to you earlier than we expected due to those quests in the beta, which is really, really cool. This allows us to just permanently run through the campaign, assuming Act 4, Act 5, and Act 6 remain the same, which I would expect they do. This means that campaign is easily run through with potentially earlier leveling requirements than we initially thought. So you may not actually end up level 50 at the end of the day, but we will have to see when the campaign comes out, if it's long enough to bring us to level 50. With the fact that we can access Act 2 and Act 3 earlier than potentially maxing out Fractured Peaks level, which is 25, that means that the second tip, looking for aspects that fit your build, is massive. Now, I took a screenshot of the aspects during the beta showing here, and you can see that certain aspects, which the only ones that we were able to acquire during the beta were from Fractured Peaks, but later on you'll notice that some of the aspects are from different areas of the map. A really, really nice way to immediately kind of have an overpowered build for your level is to find the aspects that work with your build, which means you kind of have to have a build going into it, and then look for those, finish that dungeon, and then get that aspect immediately. And then hopefully it'll be an offensive aspect, because those are the ones that are going to increase your damage most likely. And then you can apply it to your amulet, which doesn't really get replaced nearly as often as your gear. And then you'll have that presumably throughout the earlier leveling process, and you'll immediately be able to basically blast through the campaign, in addition with that huge damage increase, which is going to be a really, really smooth process. So definitely figure out the aspect that you're looking for. There are a ton of different sites, and I will leave a couple of links to this in the description down below, talking about some of the different legendary aspects that you can hopefully find online. This next tip is pretty obvious to those of you that might have played MMOs in the past, but pick up every side quest up until the max that you could fit in your quest log, which I believe is 20, as far as we've seen from the beta. But if you could pick up a side quest in that area, do so. The reason for this is during the beta, we were able to overlap side quests and the areas that we were traversing through with the main storyline. And so although I just mentioned how you're supposed to be crushing campaign to be as efficient as possible, you want to pick up those side quests to maybe, I don't know, trigger an event during that area that you're traversing through, or if you just happen to kill a couple monsters, maybe they'll drop something associated with that side quest, and guess what? You're going to get a little bit of additional renown for that area. And the goal in each area is to get that first skill point while you're doing the campaign, because it's actually a really, really low renown, as we've seen from the Fractured Peaks. So that will help you through your early leveling process without actually grinding out renown. We're going to get a big boost to our skill points with doing these side quests on the side, which coincide with the campaign, which all of this will help you pushing the campaign, and goes back to my initial tip. This next tip might be a little bit more obvious for those of you that grinded out the game in the betas, but salvage don't sell. What do I mean by salvage don't sell? Well, In the game, you need a lot of gold for legendary aspect extracting, for upgrading your gear, but you also need crafting materials like ore for crafting gear, or potentially some sort of hide or silk. I'm not quite sure all the crafting materials in the game, but you do need a lot of them to upgrade your gear and do all sorts of various things. In the early game, those weapons and armor that you're picking up sell for a pretty weak amount of gold, but the crafting materials that you acquire, at least from level 1, or rather level 6 or so, because that's when you start unlocking the shops and such, to level 25, the gold scaled, but the crafting amount that you're getting, or the crafting materials that you're getting, did not, right? So it's equivalent in terms of the value at level 6 for your gear pieces as it would be level 25, and then the gold would increase. Therefore, you should salvage early levels and then craft, or rather sell, so you can craft later on. The key note to this is that as you level up, you're going to get access to higher rarity drops. As we've seen when we approach level 20, level 25, the rare drops increased dramatically. And specifically in this last beta, when we can only get to level 20, I didn't see a single legendary item until I reached level 19 on any of my characters. And even the rare items were a lot more rare early on. So if you're salvaging a ton, then you're going to get a lot of that basic crafting material, which is going to be very useful. However, if you may have a surplus of that, then you might want to sell a little bit. But on average, you're going to want to salvage early, then sell as you get a little bit deeper into the game. And my final tip is play how you want to play. Now, this is a shout out to a lot of you who left a couple comments on some of my previous videos. And that is, well, you don't want to play how you want, or how he wants, do not listen to this guy. And that's totally fine. If you want to play how you want, that's totally fine. That's what you should do. You want to have fun. Do not burn out on this game because you're trying to keep up with people. If that's not what you enjoy doing, do what you enjoy doing. However, the reason I put these videos out is because there are a lot of people out there like myself who actually search for information and want to go in with a little bit of guidance. And that is totally fine as well. Everyone enjoys the game differently. So if you're someone that actually wants to come in and have a little bit of guidance or potentially learn from my mistakes, then that is perfect. And if you're someone who doesn't care, doesn't want to look up build guides, etc., then these videos aren't necessarily for you. Totally fine with that as well. Either way, enjoy the game. Hopefully these tips help you. A little bonus tip here, if you have not watched my previous video, as I've gone through a little bit of the math behind world tier difficulties, the ideal world tier, if you're looking to progress a little bit faster, is world tier 1, not the higher world tier. So little bonus tip at the end. If you have not seen the video, you can check it out here, and I'll see you all for the next one.